Hi, everybody. You caught me studying the astrology just for you. How do you like that? So, welcome to the Soul Space Podcast. Today is July 14th, 2025, and the planets are spinning around as they always do. So, we're going to talk about some astrology tonight and just some spiritual stuff. And if anybody wants to comment live, you can do that. I will be reading the comments. I actually brought my glasses tonight so I can see good stuff. So, if you want to share the show, that would be great. I'm going to do that right now and put that up on all of our social media. I invite you guys all to find me on social media, which means on Facebook, you're going to find me on zenkuda.com. And on Instagram, you're going to find me on Zenkuda Official. And on YouTube, you're going to find me on Zenkuda. So the show is live on Strong Island on YouTube and on Facebook. And we're on all podcast platforms. Whenever you want to watch us, you can actually watch us on, you can listen to us on Spotify. You can watch us on all podcast platforms, Apple, wherever you usually do your podcasting. And you can even ask Amazon Alexa, Amazon, play the latest episode of the Soul Space podcast with Georgia Rose. So I'm all over. You can get me everywhere to guide you in your cosmic wisdom. So the show is shared. We're live. Welcome, everybody. I'm seeing everybody come in now. So tonight's show is the great rerouting. What do I mean by rerouting? You're all curious, I'll bet. Well, you'll find out in a few minutes. So we've got a lot of planets shifting signs. We've been talking about that on the show for quite a few months now. And now it's all happening. We've been talking about the planning of it, what it'll feel like. And now we're in it. And it's probably nothing like what we all expected. So I'd love to hear what's going on in your lives. So welcome. This is the place where I give you cosmic wisdom. We have soulful conversations. I actually am going to have some guests on this month that are very different from my other guests. I went to the Eternal Con yesterday over at one of our sports complexes where they have all kinds of pop culture and artists and really creative people. And I met two people individually that I'm going to be having on the show. I just have to make more contact with them. So welcome today. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into the rerouting, soul, stars, and our new foundations. So what does all that mean? Well, the world is shifting around us, and the world is shifting. A lot of old institutions are crumbling. We're seeing that happen now, all around us, not just in politics and banking and things like that, but also in all of our foundations, our belief systems, religion, even, I know in my country we have immigration issues where everyone's taking sides and things like that. But suffice it to say that all of the things that we have been conditioned upon, right? What is right? What is wrong? The duality of where we've been in our lives, how we're supposed to act and where we're supposed to be. All of those things that was rooted in and the foundations of that are really crumbling. And many people are kind of scrambling, maybe even flailing or twisting, looking for new causes. And that's why people are so zealous and vigilant about some of these things, more so than they would ever be before. Because as other foundations and other causes dissolve, other systems, I know today I heard on the radio that we are actually in the States going to be doing away with the Department of Education. So a lot of our old things that we would lean on, hang our hat on, systems of belief are disappearing. And so when that happens, people have a tendency to look for other things to believe in, to hang their hat on foundation on. And we're seeing that a lot in the world. The foundations that we once relied on feel shaky now. And so many of us are feeling that in our physical bodies. I know last week I happened to just be sitting writing, and all of a sudden I just had this feeling come up physically where in my lower abdomen, my lower chakras, all of a sudden I just felt almost like I was on a roller coaster. And, I have tools enough and have been on the path of really feeling energy and being an empath and psychic intuition long enough to know that it wasn't my energy. In the past, I would have maybe blown that off because of my own conditioning and the things I was led to believe in, like, oh, it's a panic attack. But there's really was nothing for me to be panicked about. My life is going pretty smoothly. And I realized that I was feeling collective energy, that we're feeling a lot of that as a collective, as a source of human species, that there's a lot of things around us that really feel shaky. And sometimes we can take that on in our bodies, in our nervous systems, because our nervous systems were formed, our brains were formed and our nervous responses and the mechanisms that make us up in the physical energy and the nervous energy of our lives, those were all formed to be relied on in the old ways, right? So if something that you're always told to believe in suddenly is not believable or is shaky, will make you feel physically frightened. It will make you feel like you're on that roller coaster, or as I like to say, sometimes I feel like I'm falling through the floor. And it's a natural response in our body and in our minds to um, real things that are actually happening in our reality. You know, I remember having that feeling for the first time after 9/11, when I realized that the protections that I always thought were impenetrable, that certain things couldn't happen in our country, right? How arrogant was that? That was what I was led to believe. You know, I grew up in a generation where if you got lost or you needed help, you called a policeman or you went to the priest or you went to the neighbor, you know. Nowadays, I don't know if we would always do that. So everything that we have come to rely upon as a being is on shaky ground. And as we find that in a negative, right? So we were speaking about fear on the show last week, and that can be a negative. But if you really think about it, it can also be a roadmap for our renewal and a roadmap of where am I supposed to go? Oh, wait, this doesn't feel right anymore. My body is telling me, you know, there's danger here or there's warning here, or maybe I need to look a little further at this. And so as a result of that, we have to be curious and we have to be open to where am I supposed to go now? What's the next? What is my safety? And so I think in order to get through the next 6 months of 2025, one of the things that we really have to keep asking ourselves is, what is safety to me? What feels stable? What feels safe? Where can I be in my life? What are the things that I need to gravitate towards and do more of in order to feel safety in my life, in order to feel that groundedness that I once felt in things that are no longer there. And this can also be in our personal lives, you know, a loss of some kind, you know, something we leave something or we lose something, and there's a space where it used to be. And sometimes we try and fill that space with things very rapidly, distractions or things that are maybe not so healthy, because we're really looking for that rootedness, that root that that thing or that person or that situation or place gave us. It's almost like I remember the feeling when I was about 14 or 15 and my mom sold our childhood home. And this feeling of unrootedness was with me my whole life until I bought my own home. And it was so very important for me to have that stability in my life because in my formative years, I grew up with that conditioning that this is your home, it's bricks and mortar, you know, we're safe here. Maybe I wouldn't have had that sense of importance if I never lived in a house and if we were transient or lived in more of an apartment situation that was more temporary. Maybe I never would have had that conditioning, but a home became a physical structure to me at a very young age. And so I craved that for rootedness. That's an example of what we're all feeling in very different circumstances. So, what is it that you have placed your rootedness on, that you identify with your rootedness, your roots, your stability, your safety, that maybe now is on shaky ground because not just of the circumstances globally and the things that are transforming and the metamorphosis that's taking place now in our world, bringing us to higher consciousness, but also because something in your personal life is undergoing a metamorphosis and a change. And even though it's scary and frightening, it's there to lead you to the new, the better, the higher consciousness. So I'm just going to put on my glasses and see who's on tonight. Last week, I didn't wear my glasses and I actually ended up reading something wrong. So, hey, Aaron, how are you? I hope you're doing good. Sarah's on. Hey, Sarah. And I have a bunch of other people on. Trisha's on. Hey, Trisha. So, hi, everybody. How are you doing today? So, hopefully, we'll have a few more people come onto the show. If you're out there watching, I can see there's quite a few people out watching. You know, just give a hello. So, it's time for us to reroute, but not in the systems that surround us, because they're crumbling, but in our soul. And I love that I named this program The Soul Space. I did that 4 years ago. Didn't know that it was going to be so appropriate for this time. But we're really being rerouted in the cosmos. And it's all bringing us into deeper signs of safety, deeper signs of expression of that safety with each other. And I'm going to call this the great rerouting for the next few months. This is going to be going on for quite a while. In 2027 is when we really have the deep shift. For those of you who are into human design out there, you know what I'm talking about. We're going from a 400-year cross of planning into the cross of the sleeping phoenix in 2027. So we're feeling the ground shift beneath us. And if you're feeling that way, you're not alone and you're in the right space, because the soul space with me and a lot of other people is here to help you. Hey, Gara just popped in. I've got Marie on. Haven't seen you on in a while, Marie. Welcome. So this great rerouting starts with each one of us. It's going to start in the cosmos with the stars, but it's also something that happens within our bodies. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from someone, and I've been doing, and I'm going to give to all of you. I know on the show a lot, I say, oh, go out in nature and ground and all that. And that's very important. But I think that breath work, learning how to breathe properly, any form of yoga or meditation is really, really crucial right now. Because what the purpose of all these shifts are, and I'm going to go into them a little more in detail. I went into them last week on the show as well. But I'm going to talk about the astrology, and the skies mirror what's happening in our lives. But these shifts are really about coming forward. Every human on the planet is being tested and the ground shook on beneath them, because the universe, creator, whatever you call a higher power in your life, wants us to step into our own agency. God, creator, spirit, however you like to call the one, has created a time now so that we can evolve to an even higher level of being. And so all of these 400 years of conditioning that we've had in the past 400 years that have really been based on our performance, our production, we have to be better than the other. We have to go here for our information and gather that information, and then we have to act that way, the way it says. We have to dress the way they tell us. We have to speak the way they tell us, communicate the way they tell us, whoever they is. This is all happening, and this great shift of the ground beneath our feet crumbling is because all of those systems and all of those institutions have to crumble in order for us to realize that the true place of information, the true place of decision, the true place of how we're supposed to act, breathe, dress, talk, communicate, comes from our intuition. It comes from within our soul. So if you're looking for that answer through an influencer or TikTok or a certain teacher or guru or whatever, that's not where the answer lies. That's where information lies. And then you interpret it through your own intuition system. Your intuition and your higher guidance is going to become the forefront of how we live now, not being told how to write. I remember when I was a little girl in school, I went to private school most of my life, and I remember we had to write in cursive, and it had to be a certain way, even down to a left-hand margin on the page, and how many spaces you had. And you were not just graded on the information and the work you did, you were graded on that penmanship. It's all based in performance, when what we really should have been graded upon was the presence of the work. What is it about? What's on that page? How creative are we? How intellectual are we? How able are we to think for ourselves, right? That's where we are going now. And that's the things that are going to be more important. So it's important to ground in nature. It's important to find your own types of grounding, things that make you feel good. For one person, it might be out playing pickleball. For another person, I always tell the story, my ex used to be a great water skier. And I used to call that his religion, because he'd come back from an early Sunday morning water ski like a different person, because he touched his soul doing that. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you like to draw. Maybe you just like to do line dancing. But whatever it is, that is the conduit for you to go into your creativity, touch your soul space connection, and now bring your intuition forward. And when we do things like that on a regular basis, what happens is that energy comes with us in our life wherever we are. And now when we observe something, or maybe someone's harsh with us, or maybe we start to feel a really strong opinion come up that we want to speak about, now instead of reacting, we respond. And now your brain starts to process in a different way because you're creating new patterns of thought, new neutrons, new neural pathways. And it sounds very complicated to some, and it sounds like it's a lot of layers, but it's not. It's very simple. It's in the quiet, it's in the silence that you will find this. And we live in a society and in a world where everything's based on getting there first, rushing, fitting as much as you can in a day, multitasking, and humans were not built that way. Humans were built to focus singularly on one task at a time, find joy in those tasks, and replenish themselves through that connection. It's that simple. But we've gone so far away from that that now the systems that we made with the opposition of that force, the performances, the measuring everything based on how much you can do, how fast can you do it, all of those things. Now those things that are in direct opposition to the way we're supposed to operate have to crumble because we can no longer be in them. They do not work. We're sicker than we've ever been as a species, right? Disease is rampant. Stress is rampant. We're making ourselves sick trying to live in those worlds. And now the universe comes and starts crumbling those structures so that we can live in the world we're supposed to live in. And I'm not talking about all rainbows and sugar and light. I'm talking about living from our own agency within our soul and finding that space that is our ultimate guidance, our ultimate GPS, our own direction. Like, I'm someone who still fights with the GPS. Like, when the GPS tells me to go left and it doesn't feel right, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to go this way. Literally, all right? I double check AI because I have a very heightened guidance system because I've developed it over the last 15 years. Can you imagine if every human on the planet had a guidance system within them that was infallible? Because we do. We just don't access it. So that's what this whole shift is about. And I'm going to go into a little bit of specifics to show you exactly what God, Spirit, again, whatever label you want to give it, has created for us to really tap into our intuition. And it's a beautiful time to go into meditation and yoga and whatever brings you to that soul space because the universe is so heightened for that energy that if you do slow your roll and start to take those walks in the park and don't beat yourself up over it, right? How many years I was at a desk, I have pictures of myself running my own real estate agency with my dog under the desk every day with me. I should have been out in the park with my dog. I should have been at the beach with my dog. You know, I have a stack of papers this high on my desk and I was just grinding and grinding and grinding. No, got to make more, got to make more, got to make more. Why? Why? What do we really need? What do we really need? We need to be happy. We need to be joyful. Yes, we need to make money. Yes, we need to exist. But we also need to take care of ourselves in a really different way than we've been taught. And now's the time for it. So the cosmic current, astrology, okay? We've got Pluto in Aquarius. Been talking about this for a while. You're going to hear me talking about it till 2044 because that's how long it's going to be there. So I know we have a lot of disruption and reconstruction, and these are soul level shifts, but Pluto in Aquarius is our friend. Because even though Pluto is, the transformer, and it usually reveals things or takes things away to be rebuilt, Pluto in Aquarius will upend structures, government, tech systems, societal norms. But the transit also brings us to a place of revealing what needs to be reconstructed and rebuilt. And in Aquarius, it does that in a very individual way for each one of us. In Aquarius, it wants us to form the opinion on our own. It wants us to form the structure on our own. Even though this transit does initiate a lot of collective shadow work, meaning, lower energy, it also encourages us to rethink power. When something of power crumbles and we have to rebuild it, we have to go into our own power to do so. I remember when my whole world fell apart and I kind of had to rebuild my life and recreate myself. I didn't go to TikTok to learn how to do it. I didn't, call my parents because they were dead. I literally walked into a yoga studio and sat on a mat every day. And in that very beautiful space, I actually found out how to recreate myself in complete and total silence, making very methodical, quiet, small movements with my body and feeling in myself scanning my body every morning when I woke up to see where I was holding energy and what could that energy be, and really learning myself and what my likes and dislikes were. How did that movement feel? Did I like it? Did I not like it? Could I go into it a little bit more? Where was my place of resistance and where was my place of triumph? Where was my place of being gentle with myself and where was my judgment? All those things were felt and found on that map. I never would have found that online listening to an influencer because it's a very personal journey. And that's what these soul level shifts are about. So you got to spend time with yourself. And sometimes that is hard with Pluto in Aquarius because it does initiate shadow work in us. Pluto does that. It does initiate the pain. It does initiate the trauma, and it will show you where it is. But it's not showing you where it is so you can be a victim. No, no, no. This is an energy where victimization and anybody playing the victim is going to be dissolved. You're going to have to do the work, because as long as we go into trauma and play a victim, we cannot grow the soul and we cannot elevate because we're blaming others. And when you blame others, you have no journey. You don't have a responsibility. You are not within yourself. You're still external. You're still thinking outside your box. You have to go in your box and say, how did I contribute to this? How did I contribute to the negativity in my life? What were the things I really shouldn't have done and I did? Oh, well, got to learn how to do them different. If you stay in the victimization of, well, that's because they did this, or you should have heard what they said, or when you stay in that, you can't come from a place of correction. You can't come from a place of, I want to do it differently, because you don't think you did anything wrong. You're blaming other people. So you have to come out of the victim mentality. That's a big part of this soul journey the next year and a half. So we're going to rethink the power of situations. We're going to rethink those things that Pluto is, crumbling. And in doing that, we have to go into our own power to do it. So on a soul level, Pluto is saying, if it's not authentic, it's not going to survive. If the way you communicate with someone is not authentic, the relationship's going to dissolve. If the way that you communicate with your siblings is not authentic, it's not going to be any different. You're always going to have the trauma. If the way that you are doing your business is the same way you did years ago and now suddenly it's not working, it's because it's not going to survive. So anything that is not authentic, Pluto is saying on a soul level, it won't survive. In the next few years, it's going to go. Then we have Saturn in Aries. So Saturn is in Aries. It's retrograde right now. It's going to go back into Pisces for a little bit. Saturn in Pisces is very mystical. Saturn, when it's in Pisces, dissolves boundaries. It tests our faith. It's asking us to stabilize spiritually. And it's no coincidence that after Pisces comes Aries, because Saturn in Aries is all about fierce independence. It's fierce independence meets sacred discipline. So when Saturn was in Pisces, dissolving certain boundaries and making us float around the galaxies and float around religion and spirituality and, oh, I want to dip my toe in the water of meditation. And, oh, I think I want to go, to get ayahuasca. All great things. But then we didn't know what to do with it after we did it. So now we're, floating around a yoga studio. This is great, but what am I supposed to do with all this information? What am I supposed to do with all this? Saturn in Aries now is fiercely independent. It wants you to have your own journey. It's newly emerging energy that meets sacred discipline. So now it becomes, oh, I get it. I need to do it this way. I need to do the ayahuasca and then go home and journal. I need to go to yoga and keep a yoga journal. I need to really pay attention because this is the trailblazer. Saturn is going to give us the structure. While Neptune is also, which is total Piscean energy, Neptune rules Pisces, the ethereal, the floaty, right? The connection with all kinds of realms, but not in a tangible way. Now Neptune and Saturn meet in Aries. And so, like I said, it's the fierce independent meets the sacred discipline. It's going to be raw, instinctive, and ready to leap. This is Saturn, the wise elder. This is the architect of karma, of legacy. So now people my age are starting to think, what's my mark I'm going to leave on the world? What have I done that is a legacy for my race, for the future of all humans, right? For my species. So from May 2025 until April of 2028, Saturn is in Aries, and we're asked to channel impulsive fire into forced mastery. Mastery at its finest. So this is the energy of I want it now, becoming I'll build it with purpose. So you see the difference? Huge shift. We're no longer staying in that victimized, babyish, like, I want it, I'm going to get it, I'm going to do this so I get it. No, now we're like, I'm going to build it with purpose and with sacred discipline in right action. And that's why Saturn says, and Pluto says, Pluto says, if it's not authentic, it's going to go. Those relationships that are built on BS, you're going along to get along. You're not saying what you really want to say. You're wondering, constantly wondering, what does she think? What does he think? Is that really what he meant? Is that what, and you don't even have these honest conversations. No, they're not going to work. They're just, something's going to happen. They're going to dissolve. This is an energy of I am evolving into I am becoming. So it's not that we're leaving something, it's that we're arriving at something. The Pluto in Capricorn years were the leaving. Now Pluto in Aquarius is the arriving. The Saturn in Pisces years was the floaty, let me kind of go into here and dabble and dip my toe. The Saturn in Aries years are, like I just said, the discipline to actually create something in our lives that we have been dreaming about in Pisces now comes forth into action in Aries. And Neptune the same way. This is courageous commitment. This is, feeling like you're falling through the floor and still walking on the floor, right? That's what I'm doing every day. It's because my businesses are shifting. What I've always known for the last 30 years to be my foundation and that I could depend on is now shifting for me as I go more into this to do for actually my job, what I love to do, and opening up my whole life. Of course, I'll still sell houses and I'll still be in real estate because it's also my passion and my love, but it's a passion and love that's built on the conditioning I was taught in the last 400 years. I have to grab what's good and bring it to the next 400 years and the way that life is going. So this is about reclaiming your inner authority, which is what I'm doing right here on this show, being completely exposed and telling you everything I believe without hesitation. This is about building a life that reflects your soul truth, the soul space, not just mine, but yours, and bring all of our soul spaces into a community where we can share and learn from each other. Learning to lead with integrity, not ego. So we're no longer, I want it, I'm going to get it. If I do this, I know I can. Oh, if I wear this dress, I'll distract them. Oh, if I speak this way and I'm more polished, then I'll have more of an audience. Oh, that's a manipulation. That's ego. That is not learning to lead with integrity. Learning to lead with integrity is saying, this is who I am. I know it's not going to be for everybody, but I have to stay true to myself. And I'm doing it with love. I know I'm in right action for me. Working with integrity is, I don't understand our relationship. Can you talk to me in a way that maybe we can leave this conversation and have a better understanding of each other? And I know that simple sentence, that simple dialogue, there's people out there who could be like, oh my God, I could never do that. If that's the case, then you're in the wrong place. I'm sorry, but I hate to be blunt, but it's the truth. We're just afraid because for the last 400 years, society has told us, keep your mouth shut, don't make waves, don't tell anybody. Almost every conversation I have on the phone with my brothers and sisters is still, at some point, they will say to me, okay, but don't tell anybody. Then why are you telling me? Right? I understand some things you have to respect, but I'm just saying, like, it's benign things. And we're all in this place of that a lot. So lessons in courageous commitment. Aries wants action, and Saturn demands patience also, which I know I've been working so hard on my patience. I'm doing pretty good though. But together they teach us how to commit to our passions and to follow through. So as much as Saturn is like the limitation, it shows us, it builds structure. Saturn is the structure in the containers we build our life on. And now with everything being shaking under our feet, it's going to build all new structure. So you would think, being there with Neptune in Aries, that, it will maybe limit our spirituality because Neptune is the planet of spirit, but it doesn't. What it does is it gives us the patience and the discipline and the maturity, the wise elder, in order to really make things happen. So it's just a beautiful, beautiful time. So the soul lesson here, there's going to be sacred triggers, especially if you're used to resisting life, pushing against life. If you're used to rushing around, you've got 3 kids in the backseat of the car and one goes to soccer and one goes to piano and the other one's got Little League, and you're like, la, 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 la. You're going to have some triggers. You're going to have some harsh lessons because we're headed for a completely different type of operational system, and our nervous system is going to start to feel it. That's why so many people are sick, because they ran around their whole lives in the grind, myself included. I know that's what part of the reason I got cancer. It was to stop me in my tracks because, nothing else stopped me, not death, not a lot of things. So of loved ones. So that was what happened to me. So if you feel those nervous things, if you feel that discomfort, that anxiety, stop and breathe and just think, okay, where is this coming from? What's the trigger? Because these are your sacred lessons. And when I said that, the clock just said 222. So these are your sacred lessons. You are the architect of your own becoming, but you have to build with both fire and form. When the planets were in Pisces, we couldn't find the form. Now we have it, and it's just so beautiful. I'm going to cry. So one of the affirmations that I like to say, and I'm looking at it because I had it for the end. Where did it go? My affirmation. I guess we'll get to that later in the show. Oh, that was the affirmation. I'm sorry. The affirmation was, you are the architect of your own becoming, but you must build with both fire and form. And the reason we say fire and form is because Saturn gives us the structure, and in Aries, it gives us the fire. Aries is new emerging energy. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's rebirth. When I see people with heavy Aries chart, it means that they are in this lifetime. Their soul has come here to find a new way of being. They're completely emerging into new energy. So then Saturn is going to conjunct Neptune in Aries. And this is the alchemy, which means the change, right, of action and intuition. And that's where all the intuition I'm speaking above, that we're going to run our lives now with our intuition. We're going to, be somewhere and have to make a decision. And it's no longer going to be the indecisive or the looking to someone to show us what to do, or going to some place. Like when I was a kid, you'd go to the dictionary. We don't have those anymore, right? Now we've got AI. So I just want you guys to know what AI really is in my world. I know AI is artificial intelligence, and yes, I use it for some things. Whatever I write, by the way, either on my blogs or on social media or wherever you see my writings, they are not artificial intelligence. They are absolutely mine. But I would love it if everyone in the Zakuna community, when you think of artificial intelligence, which definitely has its place in the world and is very good for us in a lot of ways, but I think there's an AI that should take precedence over that, and that is authentic intuition. So when you think about AI, think about authentic intuition. And I just coined that last night in my sleep, and I hope that you guys use it. So I'm just going to look and see who's on. So I've got Marie on. Hey, Marie. Hi, Gira. Hi, Joanna. Oh, Joanna McNally's on. Hey, Joanna, we got to have you on the show. And Sherry Mirando. Hey, Sherry. I know I owe you a phone call. And Trisha's on. So, yeah. So I got to tell you, it is really crazy times in our life because, and when I say crazy, it's good crazy because we're really, really changing as people. So this is the work with Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries. It's the alchemy of action and intuition. So here is the first thing we have to do is ground the dream. Whatever it is that you really want in your life, and I'm not talking so much about riches or abundance or a relationship or I'd love to live in Africa. I'm not like talking so much about that, although those things are fine. I'm talking about grounding the dream, like your spiritual vision. Like, what is your spiritual vision? Like something that's real. Like maybe you want to have children, or maybe you want to climb the Himalayas, not a material thing, so to speak, but something that is really deeply entrenched in your soul. Like, you were just born here to do it. I was watching a documentary last night about Salvatore Ferragamo, who makes shoes. I guess he's passed now. And he always had beautiful, beautiful shoes. If anyone's ever been lucky enough to own a pair, I have been. And from the time he was a little boy, making shoes was his passion. And you would think, well, that's not like a big deal spiritual thing, making shoes. But for him, it was. He even went to college for anatomy to learn how the foot was made. And he said even from when he was a little boy, he loved feet. And he has something like 1,000 patents on shoes. And that was why his shoes were so comfortable. He just devoted his whole life to making shoes in such an unbelievably spiritual way. And so that's what we're talking about here, is grounding your spiritual dream, whatever that might be. And if you don't know what it is, sometimes a reading of the astrology chart can help you, guide you. It's not going to tell you what it is because it has to come from within you. But the way the astrology chart works is it gives you arrows and directions. And a lot of times you come away from a chart, especially with me, because I don't do cookie cutter, I do very personal charts. But you come away and you're like, oh, I think I'm seeing things now. I'm getting that feeling of being home, being towards home, being in the right path. So Saturn brings the blueprint, the bones, the commitment. Neptune offers the dream and the intuition. Neptune is like the soul whisperer in Aries, whereas in Pisces, it was like kind of cloudy, like staticky, and we really couldn't hear it. In Aries, Neptune is, go here. And it's very subtle, but once the bell has rung, it can't be unrung. In Aries, this fusion, Saturn brings the form, Neptune brings the soft whisper, the soul whisper. In Aries, this becomes bold initiation. So things are going to start to really accelerate and really happen quickly. It's a call to act with your inner knowing. So remember that phrase, authentic intuition and inner knowing, because you're going to hear me say that a lot in the months to come. Number 2 is sacred identity work. Aries rules the self. It's the first sign of the zodiac, the first house, which is the house of self. So Aries, with Saturn and Neptune here, we're being asked to strip away those false identities. A few shows ago, I talked about masks, and you're going to see the masks fall away. You're also going to see a lot of things and inventions to do with facial recognition, because now we're going to wear it on the face. This is about rebuilding from the soul, from your truth. It's about your presence. A lot of influencers are going to find themselves no longer looked at. Performance artists, as I like to call them, who don't have soul in their work, who don't have truth in their work, are going to just fall by the wayside because people are going to value presence more with performance. It's real soulful truth in their presence. It's a commitment to spiritual paths that reflect who you really are. And that's why relationships are going to fall away if they don't really reflect who you are. If you're becoming someone you're really not in a relationship, it's just not going to work. It's going to fall away. And it also asks us to balance ego with empathy. So you're going to see more compassion in the world. As we get in touch with our inner selves are going to identify more and more with other people around us. This is really cool stuff. The next thing that Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries is going to ask of us is manifesting with integrity. And we talked a little bit about that before, but this is turning intuitive downloads into structured offerings. For instance, I've been getting things in my sleep and they become things I talk about on the show. I'm not saying everyone has to have a podcast because God knows everybody does these days. And I'm certainly not suggesting that everyone needs to stick a microphone in their face. Obviously, I've been gifted to do that in many different ways, tangibly on this earth, and also with certain aspects that God gave me that I was born with. I'm a good talker. But what it means is that you want to bring something into a structured offering, meaning that may just be the conversations you have with your children or a parent, or maybe at work you become the person people go to. You're a supermarket cashier, but you're helping people, you're changing lives. We do it all in very small, little, very subtle increments. Being a structured offering doesn't mean the big time. That's the old paradigm based on performance. This is based on our truth. If you help one person in your life is well used. It's about movements that reflect higher purpose in your everyday life and creating places where you align with your truth, not in an ambitious way because you're trying to climb somewhere or get one over on somebody or make somebody bend to your will. Now we are just going into a place of alignment because it feels good. And then this energy can be confusing, and that's where we have to, number 4, is confront your shadow side. It's like walking through fog with a map that hasn't been completed yet. You don't know where the destination is on it. Because Saturn sometimes resists Neptune's fluidity. Neptune does make us fluid, So when it resists that, we can find that boundaries do dissolve. But in this energy, we have to trust the process. And that's what it's about. It's about trusting that map that doesn't have the big X on it that says go here. Because you're going to hear those subtle soul whispers from Neptune that says, go here. Will you trust that? Are you embedded enough in your own authentic intuition, your own AI, to trust your own map, which maybe hasn't been completely drawn yet? That's the journey. That's the journey of soul. That's where faith overlies everything, because we know we truly trust ourselves. And then we have to integrate it all. Okay, so we're becoming the architects of our own life, our own awakening in our own timing, and that's going to be different for everybody. It's about spiritual leadership of yourself. Don't worry about the external world yet. Be focused on the self and the spiritual leadership there. That's the Aries energy. And so that's most of the transits we have. And then we also have Uranus, which I talked about a lot on last week's show, going into Gemini. It's there now. It's at 0 degrees. So we have a lot of planets at the first and 0 degrees of their signs. They're all new energy. And so this can feel ungrounding to us, but it's also a signature, a soul, a karmic signature for the universe, for the globe, that we are embedded in all new energy. So take advantage of that. Stop doing things the same old way. We have to learn to communicate differently and communicate with each other in a much more truthful and authentic and honest way, and let go of the fear we have to do that. So all of this is coming in, and it's asking us to root our future in higher consciousness, in a higher way of being. And astrology, of course, is the GPS system for building those new foundations, along with other things as well. Healing, even tarot can help us sometimes. But ask yourself, what does stability mean to me now, right now, present day? What does stability mean to me? It may mean something different than it meant a few months ago. And how can you root in your soul that stability, not just your surroundings? Like, we're not just talking about, oh, I need to live here, I feel safe when I'm home. We're talking about the clock just turned 11:11. How can you root yourself in what is stability and security to you? Because I'm going to tell you what this is all about in the end, and what Aries energy really is about, where we're going to be for a few years. This is all about freedom. And that's what Aquarius is about, Uranus and Gemini is about. The one common link that all of these transitions have: Saturn, Neptune in the first degrees of Aries, Pluto in Aquarius in the first degrees, Uranus and Gemini in the first degrees. What those planets all have in common is freedom and liberation. So if we can get ourselves into the soul space where we can really find what stability and safety is to us, and create that within our own energy space, not needing it in the external world, we are completely liberated and completely free. And that, my friends, is the whole goal of everything we do in this lifetime. So remember, we've got Aquarius energy, first degrees, Pluto there. We've got Gemini energy with Uranus in the 0 degree. We've got Aries energy with Saturn in the first degree and Neptune in the second degree, all telling us, hey, we're brand new here. Go this way. It's all about not artificial intelligence. It's all about authentic intuition and dropping down into the soul. So as foundations crumble, you guys know I always like to talk a little bit about my real estate career on the show, because that's also part of my soul space. And so recently, I have a picture of a house I just recently sold. I'll just pop it up on the screen for a minute. This house was an elderly person who had to go into a nursing home. And it was a small little house, and the house was filled with things, so that was going to be a problem. But we finally found some buyers for it. I don't know if Carmine can put the picture up on the screen. We finally found some buyers for it. And when we were doing, before the inspection, I went down to the basement, and they had been cleaning out some of the stuff. There we are. It sold for $499,000, and it needed everything. But an investor bought it. He's going to be flipping it. So if you're interested, give me a call. You can find me on all social media. So this cute little adorable house really, like I said, the sky always reflects what's going on in the world, right? So I have the deal on it. It's going pretty good. And one day after they had taken out some things from the basement, I went downstairs. Thank you, Carmine. I went downstairs, and I could see daylight out of the foundation. That's never good. So I thought, oh my God, there's these huge cracks in the foundation. I think the house is collapsing. The house is falling down. So now I have this client in a nursing home, and obviously a lot of things collapsed in her own life. She's at the end portion of her life, and now her home is actually collapsing. All the structure and everything that she owned in it. How symbolic is that for this energy, right? So what do you do? I'm like, well, I never in 30 years of real estate had I had that situation before. So I called a friend of mine who is an engineer, and he looked at it and he wrote me a letter about exactly what was wrong. And we presented that to a prospective buyer, and they were okay with it. And they lowered their offer a little bit. We ended up selling the house for a very good price at 499. So kudos to me. I'm a great realtor. But the process taught me I didn't really know what to do. It was a situation where the old was crumbling, but I used my own resources and my own intuition. I looked in my catalog of people and I called someone I hadn't seen in a very long time. And he came and did such a wonderful thing and even recommended someone else to me that I had almost forgotten about that came and was also a friendly person of mine. And he came and they were both so wonderful to me. And at the end of speaking to them on the lawn, and they were going to, type me up a letter, this beautiful man that I hadn't talked to in several years gave me a miraculous medal of, the Virgin Mary, Miraculous Mother. And he said, keep this. He goes, I give these out all the time to show people that there really are miracles in the world. Now, those are the kind of things that happen to me all the time in my earthbound life in real estate. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what's going to happen. And P.S., we closed on the house on Friday. Everybody's happy. The new owner is excited to flip the house and make it a really great space for someone else. And so it's getting rejuvenated in a completely different way. The old systems no longer worked. The house passed its life expectancy. It had to collapse. And now it's going to have a beautiful new life. And the whole experience taught me a lot of things, that there are people that I can rely on, that there's new systems that I can put in place when things happen, and that you never know when people are really there to show you that faith and divine guidance is always on your side. So if you're looking for a spiritual realtor, give me a call. If you're looking for a reading, give me a call. You can find me on all social media, Zenkuda Soul Space. You can find me on the Soul Space with Georgia Rose on Spotify and everywhere. And you can find me on Zenkuda on YouTube, where you might find a real estate video or two, but it's mostly about the stars and our soul. So thanks so much. I am Georgia Westcott, your Georgia Rose from Zenkuda, and I'll see you next Monday night at 7 o'clock in the Soul Space.